Okay, this is a video for the Kynera Freya. It's a single dynamic 3 balanced armature, so it's a hybrid. Spoiler alert, not a fan, but I'll break it down into the 3 sections. Before I get to that, let me address the question that I've been asked a lot, and I won't do a full video for it because I'm slightly handicapped. I've got an L3 in my possession that I'm a huge fan of. I like it a lot, and I've also got the FH3, which I like a lot. Starting with the bass, this is my set. I think that the bass on the L3 is more authoritative. It's got more punch. Very strong punch on my L3. If that doesn't sound like yours, then I have a set that's not similar to yours. In the mids between the FH3 and the L3, I think that it's almost a push. Neither one seems to bring out the complaints, like these are too forward of either one, or these are too scooped on either one. So I'll call the mids pretty much done well. They're not bad. The treble is where this becomes an issue. My set sounds good in the treble. If your set, the L3, has cymbal strikes that sound like they have energy and natural, and they decay in a way that sounds natural to your ears, then you have a set like mine. These qualifiers suck, but I gotta say that. That would be better than the FH3, which is slightly, it's like remember, an amplitude scale. It's just, that's how much emphasis being put towards each frequency range. It's volume down just a little bit and where the cymbals are. They sound life and death normal. They sound slightly toned down, which makes it almost a dark set, but that's fantastic because they're comfortable. And also the unit variation for this set is pretty much nil. FiO is stuff that you like, you don't like. So I got to make this qualifier because I get stuff early from lots of companies like Belon or Thea or other stuff, and it sometimes doesn't turn out to be the same thing that is the retail product. And they don't say that to me clearly, or there's ninja adjustments, or with my set, the L3, I like it better. The rec goes to the FH3 because there's no qualifiers to go with that. So that's as far as I'll go with that. Please understand, I don't want to lead anybody astray. Little issues that happened that were blown up because frequency graphs that were actually doing what people claim they were got spread around and stuff, and it muddied up the waters. But the feedback from people that paid cash money is real. It's worth more than my opinion or me plus 5 other reviewers because they paid cash money, and you start to get a certain amount of people that are saying the same thing. You got to take it into consideration. So the L3 has been dropped in my ranking because of that, not because I think it doesn't sound good, not because I think the things above it sound better than it. I have to consider issues, whether they've been resolved or not. So the YBF is something I got to consider too if it doesn't get its feet under it. So the rec goes to the FH3, personal preference. With the tuning done the way that mine was done, I would take the L3. So that is that, and now the intro, and I'll get into the bass for the Kynera Freya. Okay, the bass of the Kynera Freya using Fool in the Rain, the Shuffle, John Bonham, Marvin Gaye, the Roland 808, Violent Femmes, 4-string bass guitar, Tupac, deck mix, Led Zeppelin, kick drum, Eurythmics, synthesizers, Led Zeppelin, Dazed Confused, a 4-string bass guitar. Using those instruments and those songs in the bass, focusing on the bass, the Kynera seems to be quite off, audibly off. And we'll go ahead and take a look at why. You're looking at a bass that is peaking around 90, 80, 90 hertz, and this has got this tail is off by 3 dB, just the tail between this bar and this bar. So that would put it corrected at about where this is, right there. And so what you're seeing is still extreme roll off, extreme sub bass roll off. There's a few ways to really mess up bass, and this is one of them. So everything that I'm listening to sounds like it's lacking authenticity. Kick drums don't sound the same. The bass guitar doesn't sound the same. The kick drum actually hardly sounds there, though all of the mid bass is there. And there's something called the missing fundamental, where if you've got the overtones, you can get the fundamental. Sometimes in this instant, and using when the levy breaks, actually doesn't sound like an authoritative kick drum. What a really bad job they did when it comes to the bass on this. Not only that, but it's almost bloated. Not quite bloated. Bleeding would indicate that it's something that is coming into this green range, literally bleeding. This is not actually bleeding. It's just, it's peaking quite late. Personal preference is something that peaks around the sub bass. I don't mind if it tapers off slightly. Your ability to perceive stuff that exists between here and here is somewhat limited. There's not a lot of info down there. Remember, I come from the Basshead branch. We used to do audio tests, listen to a lot of car audio stuff. Not a ton of stuff going on down here, but this is ridiculous, and it's reflected in the synthesizers. Sound way off actually on Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. So the bass on the Canary Freya is a no-go. It's actually done quite bad, and that's the bass. I don't want to keep getting into it. Everything I listened to sounded off. That's the bass. Okay, the mids, listening to Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing, Fleetwood Mac, Go Your Own Way, The Chain, several tracks off of the Rumors album. The image for mids is Fleetwood Mac because vocals are a very big thing in the mids. You can hear scooped vocals or vocals that are forward depending on how the mid is adjusted. And in that picture you've got four singers pretty much. Christy McVie has got a different voice from Stevie Nicks, but they're two females, but they got different type of voices. Mick Fleetwood and... what the fuck's his name? I'm forgetting it. Lindsey Buckingham. Two males. They're often participating in the tracks and the instruments that they're using. So there's a lot of info with that group going on in the mids. I chose that picture because it's got the four of them, and they all do a lot of work on a lot of the song. A lot of backing vocals come in. So that's why they're in that photo. If you're like, why is that? What's that? I get that Bonham's the bass symbol, and I get that, you know, you've got a symbol as the symbol for treble, but why is Fleetwood Mac in the mids? Because four singers, that's why. Doobie Brothers, Taken to the Street, Black Sabbath, Sweet Leaf. Before I'll finish right there. Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing, which is right here, sounds odd as hell. The treble gain on this set, the peanut gain is 12.5 to 13. It's notable. The bass that is behind and pinning down this track sounds like a blob, kind of. Like, that's the quality of the low end on this. It's got a lot to do with the sub bass and the emphasis and the peak of it being around 90 hertz. It sounds like a blob behind the guitar. The guitar sounds abnormal. I'm not sure if that's my mind just not being able to get rid of the blob in my brain and focus on the guitar, but it sounds like a very odd playback. And Mark's vocals, of course, the vocal fundamentals go to probably about here, so that's not a bad rise, but the overtones, the harmonic extension begins, and all of it is amplified all the way out to, I guess it looks like 5.5. Too much for this person's liking, so the mids are being damaged by the bass on this set, on the stuff that I'm listening to, but I really didn't have to go any further than Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits. If you have this set, please listen to that. It sounds to me like the backing bassist is like a blob. I can't really discern him in the way that I'm used to with even average sets. This sounds like a very poor playback. That's the mids. They're getting killed by the bass. Okay, the treble for the Freya. When I was listening to the bass and listening to When the Levee Breaks, there's a harmonica in When the Levee Breaks, and also Plant's vocals, and the whole thing was almost ripping my face off. The treble is emphasized, so you've got what would be, if the bass was normal, a bright set. It's quite emphasized and tilts this way. The bass is kind of borked. It's actually totally borked. The treble on this is way too high, and on tracks like this where I'm listening to the bass, my brain is brought all the way, because when the harmonica comes in, I have to literally turn the volume down. So I can't evaluate the bass properly because I can't listen to it at regular volume because the treble is so emphasized. This is I won't even look at the graph anymore. A very poor execution that doesn't have any particular. Again, this is library specific. I don't know a genre where the sub bass being really that rolled off and the treble being that emphasized would work. If you know, please leave a comment, because I might put a couple in my library just to check it out. Like somebody might say country music, or I'm not into J-pop or Vocaloid or anything like that. I can't even see something like that doing well with this. This is not a well done set. I was going to give this to my chick because it looks like a girl thing. It looks like nail polish and all that. But she actually likes good music. I wouldn't give this to her. So this was a poor... this is poorly done. I'm sorry that this wasn't more specific and I get into timestamps, but it doesn't really matter. The bass sounds like a blob. The mids are being damaged by that bass, and the treble is too emphasized. It doesn't really have any, outside of aesthetics and looks, but that would be limited as well, any real benefits. And to touch again on the L3 and the FH3, I want to be clear that I've always loved my L3. I love the tuning for it. And my recommendation and opinion that's better than FH3 is based on my personal set. If somebody says, I don't think the treble, please consider that when you say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I said clearly that that's based on the set that I have and the one that I reviewed, and that it's possible that that might not be the same as some people have. Other people have said things, the treble's fine. That sounds good to me, like, because I'm focusing on cymbals. So the full video can't be done because of that unless I ask them, could you please send me a new L3? And I'll go ahead and move off on that and trust the people that do the opinions that follow me are evaluating using music and being specific why they think one is better than the other. Like I said, I wrecked the FH3 over it because it's safe, it fits well, it's got a relaxed tuning, and it's good quality, and FiOS finally getting their feet under them when it comes to earphones. Like, they're really, really nailing it. That set right in front of you also, the Thor, king of bass. I've had enough feedback from some of the people in my Discord. It's not only is it a bass beast, it has good mids and treble, actually. Like, it's the ultimate relaxed dark, king of darkness, actually, with massive bass. It's excellent. So I'll let you guys go. Summer is going to leave us someday. God, please, someday soon. Upcoming video, the Belon 05S. There's a little confusion whether or not I got a pre-production version or a full retail version. Again, like, that's what happens. So when people send stuff and say, can you try it out and listen to it, and like, this is going to be, it's hard to determine if it's the final set, so that might unfortunately be slightly delayed. Please leave comments for sets that are in the 200 and below range that you'd be interested in me reviewing. I'm trying to get the ISN H40 and a couple other ones, so I'll try to, if you got suggestions, go ahead and leave it in this video. And I got the topping E30 that I'm going to put on top of the 90, what is it, A90 I think that's called, and I'm going to switch this ADI 2 out and put that combo together and see how that works out for maybe about a month. Okay, and I'm out. You guys take care.